My name is Charlotte, and at 72 years old, I had to teach my own son a brutal lesson: that a mother's love is a gift, not a service to be exploited. This is the story of how I discovered my family saw me not as a beloved matriarch, but as a free, convenient employee, and the drastic action I took to reclaim my dignity. For months, my world had revolved around my son Marcus's wedding. He was marrying a woman named Sophia, and after years of him being a widower, seeing him find love again filled my heart with a joy I thought had been permanently dimmed. I wanted to pour all that joy into their special day. So, I offered to do everything. I promised to prepare the entire wedding buffet for 150 guests, a mammoth task that would cost me nearly $3,000 of my own savings. But I was going to do it with love. I offered to decorate the reception hall, to create the centerpieces, to coordinate with the vendors. This was my gift to them, my tangible expression of love for my son, and my welcome to Sophia, who had, for 2 years, felt like the daughter I never had. She was always so polite, so charming, calling me Miss Charlotte, with a respectful smile, bringing me flowers, offering to help in the kitchen. I felt cherished. The Tuesday before the wedding, I was in my kitchen, my hands dusted with flour as I finalized my shopping lists. The patio door was open, and I could hear Marcus on a work call and Sophia chatting with her sister, Amelia, who was visiting from out of town. I was absorbed in my calculations: pounds of roast beef, quarts of potato salad, dozens of profiteroles, when I heard my name. It was Sophia's tone that made me freeze. It wasn't the sweet, deferential tone she used with me. This was colder, sharper, laced with a cunning I didn't recognize. Quietly, I moved to the kitchen window, hidden behind the curtain, my heart beginning a slow, heavy thud against my ribs. "Look, Amelia, I have the kids' situation perfectly organized for the reception," Sophia said, and I could hear the smug smile in her voice. "Marcus's mom is going to watch them all night. There are about 15 kids, from toddlers to teenagers, but she's totally used to it. This way, we adults can actually enjoy ourselves without any annoying little interruptions." Amelia laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "That's genius, sis. The old lady is going to corral all those screaming brats while you guys dance and drink? Perfect. They won't ruin the ceremony or the reception photos." "Exactly," Sophia continued, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper that carried perfectly to my ears. "I already told Marcus that his mom is a natural with kids and loves being useful. She won't even realize we're using her. She's always so willing to help. It's like having a free professional nanny for the night. Plus, it'll keep her busy so she doesn't hover and interrupt our important conversations with her boring stories about when Marcus was little." I felt the air leave my lungs as if I'd been physically struck. I gripped the countertop, my knuckles turning white. The flour on my hands suddenly felt like the grime of my own naivety. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone you trusted completely? That moment when the mask slips and you see the real person underneath? Stay with me, because this story is just beginning, and the lesson I learned will change how you see your own family relationships. Amelia cackled. "And she agreed to it? We didn't even have to ask her directly." Sophia laughed, a cruel tinkling sound. "Marcus just mentioned there would be kids, and she immediately offered to help if we needed anything. Of course, we said yes. She's perfect for the job. She has the experience, and best of all, she's not going to charge us a thing." The conversation continued, each word another lash. "The best part," Sophia added, "is that since she'll be running after kids all night, she won't even get to eat much of the expensive buffet she's slaving over. More for the important guests." They laughed together, a symphony of mockery in my own backyard. I stood there, a 72-year-old woman, a widow who had raised a son alone, run a business, and survived more heartache than they could comprehend, and I felt myself being reduced to a caricature in their eyes. The useful old lady, a convenience, a free-of-charge servant. The pain was a physical ache in my chest, a deep, humiliating burn that spread from the core of my being. This woman, for whom I had opened my heart and my home, for whom I was spending my retirement savings, saw me as a nuisance to be managed and exploited. And my son? My Marcus? He thought I was an angel for being so willing. He was an unwitting accomplice, but an accomplice nonetheless. I heard Marcus finish his call and join them. "What are my beautiful ladies laughing about?" he asked, his voice filled with love for his fiancée. "Oh, just how organized everything is for the wedding," Sophia said, her voice instantly switching back to the sweet melodic tone I knew so well. "Your mom is going to watch the children so they don't bother the guests." "My mom is an angel," Marcus said, and I heard the pride in his voice, a pride that now felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Always willing to help the family. It's amazing she still has the energy to run after kids at her age. "Yeah," Sophia murmured, and I caught the subtle, venomous sarcasm. "It's very convenient to have a mother-in-law like that." But Marcus, my sweet, oblivious son, heard nothing but the words he expected to hear. I stumbled away from the window, my legs trembling, and made my way up to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed I had shared with my husband for 30 years, looking at the photos on my nightstand. Marcus as a gap-toothed boy, as a graduate, as a grieving young man at his father's funeral. I had dedicated my life to him. And now, at an age when I should be enjoying the fruits of that labor, I discovered I was merely a tool in his new life, a tool wielded by a woman who saw my love as a weakness. For the next 2 days, I moved through my life like a ghost. I spoke to Marcus on the phone about the wedding preparations, my voice steady and calm. "Yes, son, everything is perfect. The buffet will be delicious." When Sophia came over and said, "Don't worry too much, Miss Charlotte. You should relax and enjoy the day," I smiled and nodded. "Of course, dear. I'm so excited." But inside, the initial shock had crystallized into a cold, hard resolve. They wanted to play games? They had no idea who they were dealing with. I had navigated life for 7 decades. I had buried a husband, raised a child, and built a life on my own terms. I was not about to let myself be treated like a piece of furniture at my own son's wedding. The moment you realize you've been taken for granted is a moment of profound clarity. It's painful, but it's also empowering. If you've ever been in a situation where you felt used, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't go anywhere, because my revenge was quiet, calculated, and absolutely devastating. I called my best friend, Eleanor. We'd been friends for over 40 years. She was my rock. "Ellie," I said, my voice trembling, not with sadness, but with fury. "I need to tell you something, and then I need your help with a plan." I recounted everything, the entire conversation, the mocking laughter, the calculated deception. Eleanor listened, and when I finished, she was silent for a moment before she spoke. "Charlotte, that girl is a viper. After all you've done, spending your savings, your time, your love, this cannot stand." "I know," I said, a steely calm settling over me, "and I have a plan." I laid it out for her step by step. There was no yelling, no drama, just a simple, elegant unraveling of their exploitative scheme. Eleanor, God bless her, didn't hesitate. "You're a genius," she whispered, a hint of glee in her voice. "She's going to get the lesson of a lifetime. I'm in." On Thursday, I began the execution. I called every vendor, every caterer I had hired. "This is Charlotte Fitzgerald," I said, my voice betraying no emotion. "I need to cancel all orders for the wedding this Saturday. Yes, I understand it's last minute. A family emergency has come up." I paid the small cancellation fees without flinching. It was a small price to pay for my freedom. I called the florist and canceled the extra centerpieces. I was dismantling the foundation of their perfect day, brick by brick. On Friday night, I packed a small suitcase. I folded my favorite coral-colored dress, the one that made me feel elegant and alive, not like a grandmother destined to be sticky with children's fingerprints. I packed my medications, a good book, and a sense of righteous purpose. Marcus called, his voice full of oblivious affection. "Mom, is everything ready for tomorrow? Do you need any help?" "No, son," I said, my voice serene. "Everything is perfect. Tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day, exactly as you've planned it." "Mom, you're the best. Sophia and I don't know how to thank you for everything." "You don't have to thank me for anything, Marcus," I replied, and it was the truest thing I'd said to him in weeks. Tomorrow everything will go exactly as it should. I hung up the phone, and for the first time since overhearing that conversation, I felt a genuine smile touch my lips. The stage was set, the players were in place, and I was about to rewrite the entire script. If this story of betrayal and the first steps toward reclaiming my power is resonating with you, please show some love by giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world and helps me share these important life lessons. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a similar moment of shocking clarity. The morning of the wedding, I awoke not with nerves, but with a profound and startling clarity. For the first time in 2 years, I was not waking up as Marcus's mom or Sophia's future mother-in-law. I was waking up as Charlotte, and Charlotte was about to take back her life. The plan I had set in motion was no longer just a plan. It was my declaration of independence. Eleanor arrived at 7 on the dot, her car packed and her eyes sparkling with a mix of trepidation and unwavering solidarity. "Ready for your day of liberation, my dear?" she asked, pulling me into a tight hug. "More ready than I've been for anything in a long time, Ellie," I replied, my voice steady. The suitcase containing my coral dress sat by the door, a symbol of the celebration I was about to have, just not the one anyone expected. Before we left, I placed the letter on my kitchen table, right on the spot where Marcus always sat for his morning coffee when he visited. The words were chosen with care, etched not just in ink, but with the residue of a broken heart that was determined to mend itself with dignity. "Dear Marcus, by the time you read this, I will be far away, enjoying a well-deserved rest. For months, I have poured my heart, my savings, and my energy into preparing for what I believed was my son's joyful celebration. I now know that you and Sophia had a different role in mind for me. My part was not to be an honored guest, but the unpaid nanny for 15 children, a duty assigned to me without the courtesy of a question. Since the buffet I promised was part of these unconsulted duties, I have canceled everything. I hope you find a swift solution. I will return tomorrow evening, with love, but with dignity, Mom." As Eleanor pulled away from my house, I didn't look back with regret. I looked back with a sense of finality. I was leaving behind the woman who constantly sought approval, the woman who confused servitude with love. In her place, I was taking back the woman I used to be, strong, self-assured, and worthy of basic respect. Have you ever reached a point where you knew you had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? That crossroads is terrifying, but crossing it is the most liberating feeling in the world. What happened next was the moment I truly started living for myself again. The drive to the luxury spa was a journey into a new world. With every mile, the weight on my shoulders lightened. Eleanor and I talked. We laughed. We remembered who we were before our lives became so defined by our roles within our families. Remember when we took that pottery class and you made that lopsided vase that I still have? She laughed. I remember, I said, smiling out at the passing landscape. I remember having time for lopsided vases. I remember having time for me. For years, my time had been a currency I gave away freely, never realizing its value until I saw it being spent so carelessly by others. We arrived at the spa, and it was even more beautiful than the pictures online. It was an oasis of calm and respect. The receptionist greeted us with chilled glasses of Prosecco. "Welcome, ladies. Your suite is ready. Is this a special occasion?" Yes, I said, accepting the glass. It's my Independence Day. As I settled into my beautiful room with its private balcony overlooking a serene lake, I allowed myself to imagine the scene unfolding back at the wedding venue. The ceremony was scheduled for 4:00 p.m., but the chaos would have started hours earlier. Marcus would have begun calling me around 9:00 a.m., wondering when I would arrive with the first load of food. By 10:00, the panic would be setting in. Right on cue, at 11:30 a.m., as I was lying face down on a massage table, the scent of aromatic oils filling the air and skilled hands working the tension from my shoulders, my phone began to vibrate incessantly on the side table. I could see Marcus's name flashing on the screen. I smiled, closed my eyes, and let it go to voicemail. The masseuse, a gentle woman named Anya, paused. "Is everything all right, madam?" "Everything," I said, my voice muffled by the face cradle, "is absolutely perfect. Please continue." This was my baptism, not in fire, but in tranquility. Every vibration of my phone, every missed call, was another layer of my old life falling away. I was being remade, not as a grandmother or a mother-in-law, but as a woman of worth. After the massage, a facial that left my skin glowing, and a leisurely lunch with Eleanor on the terrace, I felt like a new person. We clinked glasses of crisp white wine. To us, Eleanor said, to women who remember who they are. To women who are no longer afraid to demand the respect they deserve, I added. At 3:00 p.m., with 1 hour until the wedding ceremony was set to begin, I finally turned my phone back on. It was a torrent of digital desperation. 17 missed calls from Marcus. 8 text messages, each one more frantic than the last. "Mom, where are you? We've been calling all morning." "Mom, I found your letter. Please call me. This isn't funny." "Mom, the wedding starts in an hour. Where is the food? The guests are starting to arrive. Mom, please. We can talk about this after the wedding, but we need to solve the buffet situation now. Tiffany is crying. Please, you have to help us." The final message was the one that solidified my resolve, the one that proved they had learned nothing. "Mom, I know you're mad, but there are 15 kids here and we don't know what to do with them. Their parents are asking who's going to watch them." They weren't sorry for their betrayal. They were sorry their free labor had failed to show up. I took a deep, calming breath of the spa-scented air and dialed Marcus's number. He answered on the first ring, his voice a ragged scream of stress. "Mom, where are you?" "Hello, Marcus," I said, my voice as smooth as the lake behind me. "I'm at a beautiful spa with Eleanor. I just had a hot stone. Massage. How are the wedding preparations coming along?" The moment you stop reacting to someone else's panic and start upholding your own peace, everything changes. That phone call was my line in the sand. If you've ever had to hold your ground against a tidal wave of guilt, you know how hard this was. "Mom, you can't be serious," he yelled, and I could hear the cacophony of chaos in the background, shouting, crying, the distinct sound of a child wailing. "The guests are here. There's no food. The caterers you hired are calling me. Tiffany is having a meltdown." "Did you read my letter, son?" I asked, my tone conversational. I explained it all quite clearly. I canceled the buffet when I discovered my actual job description was unpaid nanny, not mother of the groom. "But Mom, the wedding has started. We can't just cancel." "Marcus, you're a 45-year-old man with a successful career and a fiancée who is, by her own admission, a brilliant organizer. I have every confidence you'll find a solution. Is there a pizza place that delivers?" I heard a strangled sound on the other end of the line. "Mom, you can't be serious." "I have never been more serious in my life, son. Enjoy your wedding. We're going to enjoy our spa, and don't expect me early tomorrow. We've decided to stay for breakfast." "Wait, Mom, Tiffany wants to talk to you." There was a fumbling sound, more crying, and then Sophia's voice came on the line, stripped bare of all its former sweetness. It was raw, entitled, and furious. "Charlotte, you cannot do this to us. You promised. There are 150 people here." Sophia, my dear, I replied, my voice dripping with a calm that I knew would infuriate her. I made that promise when I believed I was a cherished member of the family, when I discovered I was actually the hired help, though curiously, without the hired part, I reconsidered. As they say, labor should be paid, and I've decided I'm no longer working for free. But the children, she shrieked. There are 15 children here. Their parents are expecting someone to watch them. Ah, yes, the 15 screaming brats, I believe was the term, I said softly. That does sound difficult. Don't you have a sister who can help? Amelia, was it? I overheard she thinks I'm so very good with children. The silence on the other end was deafening. It was a void of sheer, exposed shock. I could practically hear the gears in her brain grinding to a halt as she realized exactly how I knew everything. How do you know about Amelia? She stammered, her voice now small and broken. Oh, Sophia, I said with a sigh. You learn many things in 72 years. One of them is that walls have ears, especially the ones in the home you so carelessly disrespect. Charlotte, please, we can talk about this later, but right now I need... What you need, Sophia, I interrupted, is a professional. I suggest you look one up. I believe the going rate is about $10 an hour per child. Let's see. 15 children for, say, 6 hours? That's $900. Quite a bargain compared to the $3,000 buffet I was providing. I heard her yell away from the phone. Marcus, your mom has lost her mind. She says she knows everything we talked about. Then Marcus's voice returned, but it was different now. The anger was gone, replaced by a dawning, horrifying comprehension. Mom, did you hear us? That day on the patio? I heard a great many enlightening things, son, I said, my voice losing its pleasantry and gaining the steel it deserved. I heard that I'm an old lady who is useful for once. I heard that I'm so used to watching children, I wouldn't even realize I was being used. And my personal favorite, that I'm like having a free professional nanny. The silence that followed was longer this time, heavier. Eleanor, listening from her nearby lounger, gave me a triumphant thumbs up. Mom, we thought you liked watching kids, he finally whispered, the excuse sounding as pathetic as it was. I like spending time with my grandchildren, Marcus. I do not like being volunteered as the official wedding day childcare warden for 15 strangers' children without being consulted, and I certainly do not like hearing my future daughter-in-law tell her sister that I'm a nuisance who needs to be kept busy so I don't bother the adults with my boring old stories. Sophia didn't say that, he protested weakly, a last futile attempt to defend the indefensible. Marcus, I am 72, not senile. I heard every word. I heard the laughter. I heard the planning. I heard the sheer contempt for the woman who was, at that very moment, covered in flour, making cookies for your wedding. The backdrop of his reality was now a symphony of disaster. A new voice, a woman's, shrill and angry, cut through. Where is the woman who was supposed to be watching the kids? My son just knocked over the wedding cake. I couldn't help but smile. There's your answer, son. The curtain has risen on your perfectly organized wedding. Mom, please come. We'll pay you. We'll give you $500 to just come and watch the kids. I laughed then, a real, genuine laugh that came from the depths of my newly liberated soul. $500, Marcus? 5 minutes ago, it was a familial duty I was supposed to perform out of love. Now that you see I'm not the pushover you took me for, you want to hire me? To ruin my coral dress running after children I don't know? The price for my dignity is far, far higher than that. $2,000! He yelled, his voice cracking with pure desperation. Marcus, my boy, I said almost pityingly, if you had $2,000 to pay me to be a nanny, then you had the money to hire a caterer instead of letting your retired mother fund your wedding. but it was just so much more convenient for Mom to pay for everything and work for free, wasn't it? Eleanor poured me more wine, her eyes shining with pride. Mom, his voice was a broken thing now. Please don't do this to me. It's my wedding day. Marcus, I said, my voice firm and final, I am not doing anything to you. You and Sophia did this to me. You made a decision about my time, my labor, and my role in this family without honoring me enough to ask. I am simply deciding that I do not accept that position. I am resigning. But we can't get a caterer now. The guests are hungry. You know what, son? That's called consequences. It's what happens when you make poor plans based on exploiting others. You assumed you had a free buffet and a free nanny. You were wrong on both counts. Charlotte, you get back here right now or we will never forgive you for this, Sophia screamed in the background, her true ugly colors now on full display for anyone within earshot. I uncovered the phone. There it is, I said to Eleanor, the real Sophia. Then, into the phone, with a calm that felt superhuman, I said, Sophia, dear, there is nothing to forgive. You planned to use me. I decided not to be used. It's really that simple. And frankly, after hearing your true voice, I'm profoundly grateful I'm not there. You are a selfish, miserable old woman. You've ruined my wedding, she shrieked. No, sweetheart, I replied. You ruined your wedding the moment you decided that saving money was more important than basic human decency. I just decided not to be an accomplice in my own humiliation. I heard Marcus grab the phone again. Mom, it's a disaster. The kids are everywhere. One hid under the head table. The parents of 3 families just left. They're furious. And where is the brilliant Amelia? I asked. Can't she help her sister in this time of need? Amelia says she didn't know she had to watch kids, that it was your job, he cried, the irony apparently lost on him. How terribly convenient, I mused. The same Amelia who laughed about the old lady watching the screaming brats now claims ignorance. Marcus, I have to go. My chocolate massage awaits. But before I do, remember this. I am your mother, not your employee. I am a 72-year-old woman who deserves respect, not a servant you can commandeer when it's convenient. Wait, Mom, you're really not coming? I am really not coming. Enjoy your wedding. We are going to enjoy the remainder of our day. And tomorrow we'll see. First, I want you to truly think about what happened here. I want you and Sophia to reflect on what it means to be a family. But Mom, Marcus, I have to go. My masseuse is waiting. And unlike you, she is treating me with respect because I am paying her for her services. That's how the world works. And with that, I ended the call. I placed the phone on the table, set it to silent, and turned to face the stunning, placid lake. The silence was no longer just an absence of sound. It was a presence. It was my peace, hard-won, and unequivocal. Eleanor reached over and squeezed my hand. Charlotte, that was magnificent. How do you feel? I took a deep, slow breath, filling my lungs with the clean, free air. I feel, I said, and the truth of it resonated in every fiber of my being, completely and utterly free. If you're standing up for yourself against those who take you for granted, know that you are not alone. What came next tested my resolve in ways I never expected. If you believe in standing your ground, show your support by liking this video and subscribing for more real stories about family, respect, and hard-won life lessons. Let me know in the comments what you would have done in my situation.
The silence after I closed the door on my son was the most profound I had ever known. It wasn't empty. It was full of my own breath, my own heartbeat, the sheer, terrifying weight of my own freedom. I stood with my back against the solid wood of the door, as if holding back the entire world I had just shut out. Leo's final threat echoed in the stillness. You're going to die alone. But the strange truth was, in that moment, I felt less alone than I had in years. For the first time, I was in a room with someone who had my best interests at heart. Me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark of my living room, not with sadness, but with the electric hum of strategy. They had brought a lawyer to my home. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a legal siege. And if they wanted a war, I would become a general. But I would fight with intelligence, with documentation, with the cold, hard facts I had spent a lifetime avoiding. As the first hint of dawn painted the sky, I was already dressed. My first stop wasn't for coffee or comfort. It was for a different kind of weapon, a better lawyer. I drove to the office of Mr. Weber, the man who had handled my dear Arthur's will years ago. He was older now, his hair more silver than grey, but his eyes held the same sharp, perceptive light. I sat in the leather chair opposite his desk and told him everything. The $33,400, the secret wedding, the invasion of my home, the threat of a power of attorney. When I finished, he steepled his fingers and let out a low whistle. "Anna," he said, his voice grave, "what your son and daughter-in-law attempted is not just disrespectful. It's a form of elder financial abuse. Entering your home, going through your private documents without permission. These are violations. We need to document everything, every transfer, every gift, every instance of pressure." Then we began the real accounting. As he flipped through the bank statements I provided, his expression grew more and more stern. "Anna," he said, tapping a page filled with transfers, "with this money, you could have traveled the world. You could have lived comfortably. Instead, you financed the lifestyle of two adults who didn't even have the decency to invite you to their wedding." His words didn't judge me. They validated the anger I'd been too afraid to fully feel. He helped me draft a new plan, a battle plan. First, change all the locks. Second, install a security system. Third, move my primary accounts to a new bank, one they knew nothing about. And fourth, the most important step, start living the life I had postponed. My next stop was the hardware store. Mr. Summer, the owner, greeted me with his usual kind smile. "Mrs. Anna, here for another light fixture for Leo's place." The question was a painful reminder of my old life. "No, Mr. Summer," I said, my voice firm. "This is for me. I need to change all the locks on my house, the best ones you have." As he processed my order, his son, Ethan, who installed security systems, happened to stop by. It felt like Providence. Within an hour, I had scheduled Ethan to install a full suite of cameras and sensors the next day. I was fortifying my home against my own family. The irony was a bitter pill, but it was necessary. It was as I was leaving the hardware store, my new keys heavy in my purse, that my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize, and I knew it was her. "Anna, it's Lena. Please, don't hang up." Her voice was a masterful blend of desperation and fake sweetness. "I get that you're upset about the wedding. It was a mistake. We want to make it up to you. How about a special dinner? Just us. At your house. Like old times." The manipulation was so transparent it was almost impressive. She wasn't offering reconciliation. She was offering a tactical retreat to regain access. "Lena," I interrupted, my voice calm. "How much is the rent you owe exactly?" The silence on the other end was a confession. It's 2 months. $1,000. But that's not why I'm calling, Anna. We miss you." "Do you miss me?" I asked, the question hanging in the air between us. "Or do you miss my money?" There was another pause, and then, with a shocking, brutal honesty, she replied, "Both, Anna. I won't lie to you. We need your help, but we love you too. You're important to us." Her admission was a gift. It stripped away all pretense. "If I'm so important," I said, the words clear and final, "then why wasn't I important enough to be at your wedding? When was the last time you called me just to ask how I was feeling?" The silence that followed was my answer. It had always been my answer. I ended the call and turned my phone off again. I was done with their negotiations. That afternoon, I did something purely for myself. I went to Cynthia's salon. "Mrs. Anna," she exclaimed, "I thought you'd forgotten about me." As she washed my hair, the warm water felt like a baptism. For the next 2 hours, I was pampered. A cut, a color, a manicure. I spent money on myself without a single twinge of guilt. It wasn't frivolous. It was an investment in the woman I was becoming. When Cynthia turned me to face the mirror, I saw a stranger. A woman with stylish silver-streaked hair and a determined glint in her eyes. "You look beautiful," Cynthia said softly. "But more than that, you look free." I finally was. When I returned home, feeling renewed, I found an older woman sitting on my front steps. She introduced herself as Eleanor, my next-door neighbor for the past 5 years whom I'd never properly met. "I heard the commotion yesterday," she said, her eyes filled with genuine concern. "I just wanted to check that you were all right." Her kindness, so simple and unprompted, undid me. I invited her in for coffee and found myself telling her the entire, sordid story. She listened, her hand occasionally reaching out to cover mine. When I finished, her eyes were wet. "Oh, my dear," she whispered. "You have done the right thing. I went through the same with my daughter 5 years ago. It was hell for the first few months. The threats, the guilt, the legal maneuvering. But after 6 months, she called to genuinely apologize. We have a real relationship now, one based on love, not on loans." Her story was a lifeline. It was proof that survival was possible, but the peace was short-lived. The next morning, as I was enjoying my coffee, 3 cars pulled up. Leo, Lena, and 2 people I didn't recognize. I didn't panic. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Weber. "They're back," I said, my voice steady. "And they've brought company." Within minutes, he was there, followed by 2 police cars. I watched from my window as the officers spoke to my son. I saw Leo's face contort with rage, saw Lena's dramatic tears. One of the officers knocked on my door. "Ma'am, it's safe to come out. They've been instructed to leave and not return." As I stepped onto my porch, Leo shouted from the street, his voice cracking with fury. "You called the cops on your own son. You're insane." I looked at him, this stranger who shared my DNA, and felt a sorrow so deep it had no bottom. "Leo," I replied, my voice carrying in the quiet street. "Family doesn't try to have you declared incompetent. Family doesn't treat you like an ATM." It was Mr. Weber who ended it. "Any further communication will go through my office, and I'd advise you to consult your own attorney before making any more threats." That night, Eleanor invited me to her house for dinner. I met her daughter, a warm woman who spoke to her mother with genuine respect and affection. There were no requests for money, no veiled insults, just laughter and shared stories. I saw what I had been missing. I saw what a family could be. Later, Eleanor confided in me. "They will escalate, Anna. Desperate people do. Be ready." She was right. A week later, a well-dressed woman from Senior Services appeared at my door, claiming they had a report I was at risk and needed to conduct a wellness check. Max and Lena had escalated to using the government. They were painting me as a confused, paranoid old woman. But I was ready. I called Mr. Weber, and with his help, we presented my side. The financial records, the testimonies, the proof of my sound mind. The social worker left. The case closed. But the message was clear. The battle was far from over. They were willing to spend what little money they had to gain control of all of mine. The son I had raised was trying to have the state declare me unfit, to legally strip me of my freedom. And as I stood in my fortified home, surrounded by the evidence of my own competence, I made a vow. I would not just defend myself, I would win. The path to reclaiming your life is never easy, and the hardest battles are often with those we love the most. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever had to build walls to protect your own peace, I would be honored to hear about your journey in the comments. Your stories give me strength, and if you want to stand with me as I face the final, most difficult part of this journey, the courtroom, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
The days after Marcus's visit were the quietest I had known in 2 years. The phone didn't ring with requests. No one showed up at my door assuming I was free to run an errand or cook a meal. At first, the silence felt like a punishment. A cold shoulder meant to make me crack. But after a few days, I recognized it for what it was: respect. They were finally giving me the space I had always deserved, but had never demanded. It was liberating, but it was also a strange, new landscape I had to learn to navigate. The first real test of this new dynamic came about a week and a half later. Marcus called, and I could hear the nervous hesitation in his voice before he even spoke. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor." My heart sank a little. Was this it? Were we sliding back into the old patterns so soon? "Tell me, Marcus." "Sophia's birthday is this Saturday. I want to throw her a surprise party. Could you help me organize it?" There it was, the ask. I braced myself. "Marcus, are you asking me to organize the entire party for you?" No, Mom, not at all," he said, and the urgency in his voice was to correct my assumption, not to pressure me. "I've already hired the caterer, booked the venue, and sent the invitations. I need help with the decorations. You have such a great eye for that. But obviously, I'll pay you for your time and your ideas." I was stunned into silence. He had done the work. The heavy lifting was complete. He was asking for my specific expertise, not my free labor, and he was offering compensation. This wasn't a regression, it was a revolution. "Marcus," I said, my voice softening, "you don't need to pay me for helping with the decorations. That's something I can do as a gift for Sophia. But I appreciate that you asked instead of assumed." "You'd really help me?" The relief in his voice was palpable. "Of course. It sounds like a very sweet gesture." "Thanks, Mom. And listen, if at any point it feels like too much work, just tell me and I'll hire someone else to finish it. No problem." That final sentence confirmed the change was real. He had not only planned his own event and asked politely for help, but he had also built in an escape clause for me, without a shred of guilt. He was learning. When you set a boundary, you don't just change your own life. You change the dynamics of every relationship around you. That phone call was proof that my no had taught a more powerful lesson than 1,000 yeses ever could. Has setting a boundary ever led to a surprising positive change in your life? The day of the party, Marcus and I transformed his backyard together. He had bought all the materials: elegant strings of lights, tasteful golden balloons, beautiful floral arrangements. My role was simply to direct, to offer my eye for color and placement. We worked side by side, laughing as we untangled fairy lights, talking about his work, about my book ideas. It was the first time we had collaborated as equals in years. "Mom, this looks incredible," he said, stepping back to admire our work. "Sophia is going to be so surprised." "I hope so. You can tell you love her very much." "I do," he said, his smile fading into a more thoughtful expression. "But I also learned that loving my wife doesn't mean I have to stop respecting my mother." The words were so simple, yet they felt like the culmination of my entire struggle. "I'm glad you learned that, son." When Sophia arrived that night, her shock was genuine and beautiful. Her hands flew to her mouth, and her eyes filled with tears of joy as she took in the decorated yard and all her friends. "Marcus, I can't believe you did all this." "Mom helped me with the decorations," he said immediately, putting his arm around me. "She has an incredible talent for these things." Sophia turned to me, and without a hint of her old calculation, she pulled me into a sincere, warm hug. "Thank you, Miss Charlotte. Everything is so beautiful." "It was my pleasure, Sophia. Happy birthday." Throughout the party, I watched them. They introduced me to their friends with pride. They seated me at the main table. They included me in conversations without condescension. But the most telling moment came when one of Sophia's friends complimented the decor. "Sophia, you have amazing taste. This is gorgeous." Actually, Sophia replied without a moment's hesitation, it was all Miss Charlotte's design. She's the one with the natural talent. I was just lucky she agreed to help us. She gave me the credit, fully and freely. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. The lesson had been learned. 2 months after the wedding, I received another unexpected call. It was Carol, the mother from the wedding. Miss Charlotte, I hope you don't mind me calling. I wanted to let you know something. You remember Robert, Sophia's father? Well, we kept talking after the wedding, and we've been seeing each other. I was so surprised I nearly dropped the phone. Really? Yes, she said with a soft laugh. And he told me he gave Sophia quite the talking to about how they treated you. He said he was deeply ashamed when he learned the whole story. The support network I hadn't even known I had was quietly making itself known. My act of defiance had sent ripples through our entire social circle, and the ripples were coming back to me as waves of validation. But the true turning point came 3 months after the wedding, when Sophia asked me to lunch, just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe, and over salads she looked at me, her expression open and unguarded. Miss Charlotte, can I tell you something personal? Of course, Sophia. I've started seeing a therapist. This was the last thing I expected to hear. Oh? After the wedding, I realized I have problems with mother figures. My mom died when I was 15 and my stepmother never wanted me. I think I felt so threatened by you. You were everything I had lost. Strong, capable, loving. And instead of letting myself miss my mom, I decided to act like mothers weren't important. I devalued you to protect myself. The honesty was breathtaking. It wasn't an excuse. It was an explanation, and it explained everything. Sophia, that must have been very painful for you. It was, she said, her eyes glistening. But I didn't even realize it. I thought I was just being smart, being independent. My therapist is helping me see the difference. She took a deep breath. Miss Charlotte, would you allow me to start over? Not as the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law, but as Charlotte and Sophia? I reached across the table and placed my hand over hers. I would like that very much, Sophia. Can I ask you a question? She said, a tentative smile on her face. Ask me anything. What's a dream you have that you never got to fulfill? The question was so direct, so insightful, it caught me off guard. No one had asked me that in decades. I always wanted to write a book, a collection of my grandmother's recipes and the family stories that go with them. Then why don't you? She asked, her gaze steady and sincere. I laughed softly. Oh, you know, life, time. It never seemed like the right moment. Miss Charlotte, she said, her voice filled with a new, gentle wisdom. You taught me it's never too late to stand up for yourself and change a situation. Maybe it's not too late to fulfill a dream either. That conversation was the final key that unlocked the door to our future. It wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about mutual recognition. She saw me as a person with dreams, and I saw her as a wounded young woman trying to find her way. 6 months after the disastrous wedding, they invited me to dinner. Marcus was practically vibrating with excitement. Mom, he said, beaming, we're pregnant. The joy that flooded me was pure and untainted by any anxiety about future expectations. Oh, my darlings, that's wonderful news. We want to ask you something important, Sophia said, taking my hands. We want you to be the grandma who decides how involved you want to be. We won't assume anything. We won't expect you to babysit when we want to go out. You tell us what kind of grandma you want to be. Marcus nodded. If you want to be the grandma who comes for tea and stories once a week, that's perfect. If you want to babysit occasionally, that's also perfect. You decide. Tears welled in my eyes. This was it. This was everything. The freedom to choose how to love my family. And what do you choose, Miss Charlotte? Sophia asked. I looked at them, my son and my daughter-in-law, and I saw not users, but family. I choose, I said, my voice thick with emotion, to be a grandma who is available when you truly need me, but who also has her own life, her own plans, and her own dreams. Perfect, Marcus said, pulling us both into a hug. That's exactly what we want. A year after the wedding, I published my book. It was called Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity, Recipes and Reflections of a Modern Grandma. Sophia helped me promote it online with a genuine enthusiasm that touched me deeply, and Marcus threw a book launch party that was everything his wedding should have been, full of genuine love and mutual respect. At the launch, surrounded by friends and family, I shared the lesson at the heart of my story. This book is not just about recipes, I told the crowd. It's about knowing the difference between giving from a place of love and being taken from a place of convenience. It's about remembering that your own story is always worth writing. After the speeches, Sophia came up to me, holding a copy of the book. Miss Charlotte, Mom Charlotte, she corrected herself, a shy smile on her face. The person who most inspired this book was you. Your courage taught me that you can love deeply and still respect yourself fiercely. That means more to me than you can ever know, sweetie, I said, pulling her into a hug. That night, as I signed copies of my book, I reflected on the turbulent journey that had brought me here. The decision not to go to that wedding had been the most difficult of my life, but it had also been the most transformative. It wasn't just about refusing to be a babysitter. It was about insisting on being seen. I had to risk losing my son to truly find him again, and in the process, I gained a daughter. Now, at 73, with a grandchild on the way, a published book, and a family that treats me with the respect I should have demanded long ago, I understand that sometimes the most powerful word in any language is no. It's a word that can break patterns, shatter expectations, and ultimately rebuild relationships on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. My story isn't about revenge, it's about resurrection. It's about proving that it's never too late to rewrite your own story and demand a seat at the table, not as a servant, but as an honored guest. This journey from betrayal to a new beginning has been the most profound of my life. If this story of reclaiming dignity and rebuilding family has touched you, please let me know by liking, subscribing, and sharing your own thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your stories are what connect us all. Thank you for being a part of mine.